Welcome to the Taylor Made Tasty podcast. I'm Taylor, retired serial quitter turned goal boss coach, speaker, and consultant. I believe a beautiful life starts with a beautiful mindset. Join me as we amplify confidence, resilience, and actionable tools on the road to quit quitting on you and your vision. You are worthy of your goals, so let's go get there. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Made Tasty, the podcast. I am coming to you live as a fresh new half marathoner. That's right, 13.1 miles. Can you believe it? Just 30 weeks ago from the date of the race, I started running and haven't looked back. This has been the wildest journey. And I wanted to give you a fair warning today. I don't know why I feel compelled to do this, but I'm just, if I'm nothing else, I'm real and honest. And today's episode somehow has a lot about my booty, okay? And just like the running, it has been a struggle with the running journey and my booty. And so I'm going to give you all the details with that, and I just feel like you should know what some people, I'm sure not all people, deal with when it comes to running. So let's get into it. Rewinding back a little bit before I got to the half marathon day, about a week and a half prior, I started to feel some weirdness on my butt, specifically the you-know-what part of it. And because I have no problem bending over in front of my husband and asking him to look, I did just that. And he said he thought I should see a doctor. Now, I hadn't found a primary care doctor in Texas yet, so I did my research and made an appointment, and I had a few things I wanted to discuss, so this just pushed me forward to do so. To my surprise, my doctor is a runner also, so super exciting, and she only said one thing that pissed me off, which is really a story for a different day. And so overall, I did like her. But we started to talk about what I wear when I'm running. And if you remember my first running podcast, I talk about how my bigger booty was getting chafed when I first started running. And I mentioned to her that I either run commando or I run in a thong. And she was completely appalled at my running in a thong and asked me to immediately stop doing that. And once I said that, she already knew what was wrong with my booty, but she took a peek, and indeed, your girl had one little one and one large hemorrhoid. Oh, joy. So I was given creams and wipes and all the things because I had a little over a week to get healed prior to my half marathon race. And then I started the fun task of something I haven't done in over 20-ish years, which is to shop for full booty underwear to run in. And I grabbed some butt paste. Yes, that is the actual name of it. My doctor recommended it above other sticks and gels and creams, and there are a lot of things that you can use for chafing in different areas of your body. And basically, it is like the diaper rash cream or Desitin, if you've ever heard of that brand. And she advised that I lather it up and down the crack during long runs and races, and then to immediately wash it after so you don't clog your pores. And life is just really funny because I started my life in a diaper, right, with diaper cream, and here I am again willingly putting that on again. And it's just, I love looking back and thinking about this running journey and thinking that, finding shoes was going to be my biggest issue. And maybe my mindset, which is still like a big piece I have to be intentional about. But I laugh at how many little things I have never even thought of would come into play. And that's what happens during this running journey and every single decision that you make. So I go to Walmart and I buy what seems to be the best style. And I've tried them multiple times in the week leading up to the race. It seemed like they would be good. I was fairly happy with my purchase. They were very lightweight, almost like this like mesh material that said that they were sweat whisking. So I was pretty happy with it. And while I love the internet and my community of followers, one of them freaked me out a little bit leading up to the race, saying, "Don't wear underwear with seams because the seams will chafe you." And I was seriously contemplating going commando for the race because I was like, oh my gosh, the underwear I got does have seams. Oh, maybe I just haven't worn them long enough. What's going to happen? But I just went with the pair that I bought for the race, and it ended up being A-okay, which is fantastic. But let's talk about this butt paste for a minute. So because I was traveling from Texas to California for the race, I had to squeeze some of this into a smaller container. And honestly, the last time that I had used this stuff was changing my little sister's diapers, 17 years ago. So I really didn't realize what the texture of this stuff was anymore. And so the morning of the race, I get my fingers deep into that travel jar, and I take a big glob and I create a thick barrier for the booty, and I quickly realize that this stuff is thick and it is now all over my hand, and the soap and water is not helping at all. It's like oil based or something because it is just spreading all over my hand. And this Airbnb, thankfully, they were sort of holistic with the things that they had. And they had this like 5-in-1 oil-based cleanser that you could use on your body and your face and your whatever. But it was oil-based. And so thankfully, after that and much scrubbing, it started to come off of my hands. And I'm telling you, it was stuck under my press-on nails. It was a mess. But I was feeling good. Like, okay, well, clearly this stuff is thick, so it should work, right? And then I get dressed and I realize that this white paste is so thick that it is making its way through my, like I said, these underwear, like mesh onto my leggings. And then I bend over in front of the mirror and realize that it's coming through my underwear onto my leggings too. So this is like this whole 5-minute bathroom fiasco on the morning of the race, just getting me all in my head thinking, oh my gosh, what is going to happen when I start running and sweating and this white cream is just going to start to like sweat down my leg. I don't know. Make huge marks on my leggings and just look so weird. I was just really in my head about what was going to end up happening. But honestly, it ended up being fantastic. Very happy with it. It worked wonders. And so butt paste, hot tip here from the Tailor Made Tasty podcast. But leading up to the day, I never really felt nervous, which is definitely a first for me. I have typically been very nervous in the past, but truly the morning of the race just felt like any other day. We had taken a trip to check out the course the night before, and that made me feel really even more confident knowing what to expect. And I was so happy to be running with my bestie and my bestie husband, Bray and Jacob. And the part of the course that was tripping me up was that it wasn't a quote unquote traditional half marathon course. And come to find out, this was the first ever half marathon held on Goleta Beach. But what I mean by it not being traditional is that it's out and back and out and back. So basically, you start at the starting line, you go out, you come back, so you see the finish line, and then you have to do the entire course again. So mentally, I thought this would be a much bigger issue. But thankfully, I went into the course knowing that. And when I broke down the path in my head, it was basically like, okay, Taylor, you just have to run 3.25 miles 4 times in a row. And that sounded very doable. As I mentioned in my previous podcast regarding running, I follow the Jeff Galloway method for training, and his training plans take you past your race goal prior to race day. So 2 weeks prior to the half marathon, I ran 14 miles for the first time ever in my life. It was definitely a blow your own damn mind moment that I will never forget. And I think that was a big part of my confidence going into this race. Looking back, if I had to describe race day, I honestly think I would say it was it was 75% uneventful in a good way. I hit the pavement with a solid mental space, had my husband and my bonus daughter on the sidelines and my besties alongside of me, well, for like the first 30 seconds and then they were off. But my mindset was in it to win it. I was focused on getting the miles under my shoes and to just keep going. One of the most exciting aspects about the race in California versus Texas was the weather. I have become accustomed to temperatures in the high 70s and 80s for running even 2 hours before sunrise. The weather was scheduled to be in the 60s. Like I said, 75% of the race was uneventful in the best way. One of the few eventful things would be that about halfway to 2/3 through the race, the heat started to get to me. I'm blessed with the bestest friend who gave me these incredible running sunglasses prior to the day that were such a freaking lifesaver because the sun was relentless. Not a cloud in the sky and mostly no shade on the course. The sun was just beaming onto my skin and into my soul, and I was definitely starting to curse Mr. Golden Sun. The other unfortunate part was limited access to restrooms on the course, or it's totally possible that I missed seeing one, but at the turnaround, which, let me remind you, was at the finish line, right? Because you're going out and back and out and back. I couldn't hold it any longer. I was trying to balance hydration with the intense sun, and I just had to go. So at the turnaround, I sprinted because even though I can stop the clock on my watch or my phone, the race clock doesn't stop for my potty break. So I sprinted to the porta potty, took my tinkle, sprinted back to the course, which took a little wind down in my sails for sure. And with the out and back style course, the cool part was being able to pass my friends and see people throughout the course because you're constantly going in a big circle, if you will. So you see them on one way, you see them on the way back. And when I had done my first turnaround, I noticed there was a few people behind me, which made my little runner heart flutter that I wasn't dead last. However, after I went to the bathroom and got back on the course and did my last turnaround, I noticed the volunteers were picking up. And it was around mile 11 that I realized I was, in fact, dead last. And I've been here before. Let me point you to episode 10 about my 10K race and what a mental struggle that was. But it was the fact that I had been here before and also finished the race in the past. I had data, right? I have been here before, but I also had the data that I still finished the race. I was still proud AF of myself. And I had to coach myself into realizing this is my first mother-ing half marathon. Telling myself, who cares about your place or your pace? Just finish. Go get there. Get to that finish line. Still, overall, extremely positive and in a good mindset for the most part. And I don't know how to say this without sounding lame, but I've done so much work mentally prior to this running journey and especially during the running journey that I would rather be dead last so that someone else doesn't have to feel that feeling. I know that I am strong enough to own that I'm still that I still completed the goal I set forth, and that's the win for me. But with that being said, we were racing on a well-traveled path. Lots of bikers and other runners and walkers, even though it's supposed to be a closed course. It's a public path near a beach. Like, people were going to be on there. And so I'm seeing people, but nobody with a bib. So again, I'm very aware that I'm dead last, right? And at about mile 12.5, so almost towards the end, I see a couple ahead of me and I realize they're wearing race bibs. So while I'm currently last, I don't have to be if I put some pep in my step, because at this point they are only walking. And the competitive side of me started to come out, and I just started running. And in my head, I was sprinting, right? I was just like going for it. But looking at the finish line videos, that was not the case. I was running at my normal pace, probably. Either way, I can say that I was third from last. That I am very proud of. And this really beautiful moment happened. The race committee was doing an award ceremony while the last of us trickled in, and they had everyone leave the award ceremony and come over to the finish line and cheer while I was making my way in. And it just gave me all the feels, just so much uplifting energy, brought on the tears as I made it past the finish line of my very first ever half marathon. And greeted with my first ever homemade running sign, my husband, my bonus daughter, my best friends and their family, champagne popping. It was just such a great race day and a milestone that I will never forget accomplishing. And reflecting on that day now, I'm so proud that a half marathon day can start like a normal day. That speaks to the ability and strength of my body, mentally and physically. And as I said from the beginning of this full marathon goal, that this was a mental goal for me, to show the discipline and mental toughness to see this through to the actual finish line of a marathon. And I think that strength is starting to show on days like these where I feel confident in my abilities to crush the goal and not overthink it because of my size. And I love being able to show you and my community what is possible for our bigger bodies. So now I want to shift the conversation to answer some questions about my training that I have received on Instagram. So I thought I would give a recap of what I'm doing and my plans for marathon training going forward. And through a sweet friend on Instagram, I discovered the Jeff Galloway method that has been my tried and true of run, walk, run intervals. I have switched from 30 seconds running and 30 seconds walking to 45 seconds running and 30 seconds walking to 1 minute running and 1 minute walking. But I was introduced to a Jeff Galloway diehard, my new friend Vicky. She's 69 years old, a badass who still runs almost daily and completes triathlons. She's had both hips replaced and attributes her running stamina to this day because of the JG method. So when I ran with Vicky for the first time, she said, I do 20 seconds running and 20 seconds walking. And at first I was like, that seems so short. But then I did the math, right? So if we're talking about a minute, we're talking about 60 seconds. If I'm running for 30 seconds and walking for 30, then I'm only running for 30 seconds. But if I'm running for 20 seconds and walking for 20 and then running again for another 20, that's 40 seconds of my minute, right? And so then I ran her whole plan that day with the same intervals and decided for all my future long runs that 20 on and 20 off was a killer combo for my pace and stamina, especially when I'm running in the humidity and the dew points at extremely high numbers here. So for now, if I'm doing a shorter run, I will keep it at my 30-30. And when I have longer runs, I've been working 20-20, and I absolutely love it. I have continued learning more and more about nutrition and fueling overall before, during, and after runs. My personal preference is some sort of sweet potato and or pasta with chicken thighs as a pre-race fuel meal. I started to notice on long runs, I would get extremely hungry, like hunger pains by the second half of the run. And because these runs take me longer than your quote unquote average runner, I am burning over 3,000 calories on most of these runs. And I would usually start with a banana on a piece of toast with peanut butter. And then I started to do some research because I wanted something light, but also mighty for me. And the perfect thing that I have come up with as a pre-run breakfast has been brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I know it sounds crazy, but it has sugar, has carbs. It keeps me full longer, I have noticed. And because of those hunger pains, they're so freaking miserable while you're running. And no matter how much I was fueling during the run, the pain would still happen. So I found also my sweet spot for fuel during runs has been every 30 minutes. I take electrolyte pills and then I do one squeeze gel or an applesauce. And honestly, these can get pretty pricey, especially because my runs take so much longer, meaning I need more of them, right? So if I have a 3-hour run, that's 6 gels that I need to have for that one run. And then that's also close to like 24 electrolyte pills. And a bottle of them is $25 for like 30 of them. So it can be a pricey thing to do these long runs, but also I am dealing with the outside factors of the humidity and the heat here too, so the electrolytes are so much more important too. But I know there's a lot of runners that do like pretzels and jelly beans and fruit snacks, and I have yet to try those on a run because my intervals are so short that squeezing a nasty gel into my mouth is super quick, and I'm able to take that down in the 20 seconds. And I also found early on that I hate chewing while I'm running, and it would mess up my breathing. So we may try some of those things in the future, but that is not what's happening right now. And following my runs, I get some protein and carbs back into my system very quickly, typically with a protein shake or chocolate milk are my go-to choices. I take some shots of pickle juice, and then 30 minutes to an hour after, I will have a full meal. And I've experienced something that I have now found fairly common in the running world, that sometimes after long runs, never during it, thankfully, but within some time after the long run, I feel completely nauseous. And a few times it's lasted well into the day. And talking to my doctor, she mentioned because so much is being burned while you run that I have maybe made my way into extreme ketosis and potentially need to add more sugar into my running fuel so that I don't get to that level. Thankfully, I never experienced that after my half marathon. We went to a beautiful lunch with everyone after to celebrate and just had a really, really awesome day, just celebrating our accomplishments. But I just wanted to end this episode and take some time to thank you and let you know how extremely grateful and thankful I am for the support of this community with my running goal thus far, and how the outpouring of love and kind words of encouragement for each long run, short run, and especially near race day is such a blessing. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I also wanted to let you know that I get a ton of running questions and plan on doing a full episode just answering those running questions that I get. So that will be coming soon. All right, y'all, it is time for the quote of the episode. This quote is from Debashish Mirda. The quote is, "If you compete with others, you may not win. If you compete with yourself, you always win by becoming better." Take that into your week, your month, maybe even your year, and own that growing your capabilities means you're winning at life. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my community. I'm so glad you showed up today, and let's go get there. Look at you, crushing it. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Tailor Made Tasty podcast. My hope is you always leave with a takeaway to implement in your own goal-crushing journey. I would love if you could take a moment to leave a review. And if you're looking for a community of goal boss badasses just like you, be sure to check out tailormadetasty.com/membership.